Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Kim, Tranquil Dreams. Welcome back to another episode of What's Up. I know it's been longer than I originally anticipated. It usually comes down to that where I just kind of procrastinate. This time we overlapped another event that happened, which is DreamHack Montreal. So I did do a recording. I wasn't really happy with it because it went on a little bit too long and I rambled because I don't do these often enough. So I kind of got out of practice. I'm already bad, and this is just getting worse. Hopefully, this works out a little bit better. I'm a little bit more organized. I think I have a new structure. So, if you're new here, What's Up is a segment that usually complements all the projects and brings it all together. I talk about things that I've been watching, reading, binging, as in TV series, and playing, as in video games. So that's really it's a really simple concept, and let's just jump right in. So starting with books, reading is going slow. I am well ahead of my Goodreads reading challenge for this year. I actually boosted it up recently. In the past month, I boosted it up 5 books. So now I'm at 30 books for this year instead of 25, because if it was 25, I would have already reached it. Uh, so yeah, I'm really happy with where I'm at right now. I just this month I only read one book, Murder on the Mind. It's the first book of the Jeff Resnick mystery, which is about a man who got mugged and who was caught up in a vicious mugging, and he was previously an insurance investigator. And because of this mugging, he lost his job and he ends up having to live with his half brother in a little town, where he ends up having these weird visions about a crime of a banker that gets murdered brutally, pretty much. And he starts having these kind of supernatural sort of feelings towards it and decides to go and explore and try to investigate these crimes using the skills he's had as an insurance investigator. This book is by L.L. Bartlett. I think that my review is already up on the site for this one. I can't say that I loved it, but it definitely had some really great ideas. I wasn't so happy with the pacing. I think the characters were okay. I think that as a first book, it really was just a stepping stone so that you would understand who this Jeff fellow was, just so that we kind of got a whole development set up and everybody set up in their places. And if you were to jump in the second book, I would hope that they've already set up the whole stage and we can jump right into something a little bit more on the mystery thriller side than more of wrapping in a lot more of his drama and his family sort of things that he needed to look at. So yeah, I mean, you can check out the review in the description below if you haven't already. It's on my blog already. So that's really all I read. I'm currently reading another book for a blog tour that I'm going to talk about that in next week's What's Up. We're going to try to do these a little bit more frequently just so that I can catch up on the things that have been piled up a little. You should see a little bit more activity now that the events have calmed down. So getting right back in, next up we're going to look at TV binges. I actually ended up after Fantasia, I wanted a little break from all the pile up I had over this time, so I ended up watching. I'm rewatching Pretty Little Liars. Last time I think I already talked about it. I was watching season 2 at that point, or I had just jumped into season 3. So I did finish season 3 recently, and I just am about to start season 4. I haven't started yet. So I literally just watched the finale a few days ago, and it's been a busy few days, so I haven't quite gone back to it. Ultimate Beastmaster Season 3, Survival of the Fittest, also got released recently. I think it was 2 weekends ago, and we're big fans. I'm working on the post right now. It's almost done. I have a lot of thoughts about it, mostly good ones. I had a lot of fun with it. There is a new structure. They had a whole different point system change. They had structures in the countries being invited. Some new hosts were added in. There was a different compilation of the contestants. The whole show had a kind of like a mini facelift. And overall, I really liked it. I'm still a big fan of Ultimate Beastmaster. I think that Netflix really has a really great thing going for it right now, especially embracing this sort of reality TV, which now has turned itself more into a realistic reality tournament for these things, and it's very inspirational to watch. Also, I'm a big fan of Netflix originals and foodie stuff, so I ended up watching Million Pound Menu, which is a Netflix original. I believe was paired with BBC. It's a really cool idea. They pair up two restaurants who pretty much each have a pop-up venue for 3 days. They have one day which is just a trial, a second day which is just for the investors who are interested in them and serving them specifically their meals, and then in the third day, investors will come back to evaluate them in an actual business setting while they're operating in a pop-up. So it's really interesting. Sometimes it really depends in the end whether they walk through the door to give them this investment and support their business. And there's a lot of different ideas. There's a lot of ideas on like restaurant running, a lot of ideas on food quality, and just how business and restaurants work in kind of like a reality setting. And I really like it. It's a really fun show. I'm working on the review for that with the TV binge for that one as well. So as for another rewatch, I actually went back and watched Taiwanese series Refresh Man. It's really relaxing. I really love it. It's super fun to watch. I have the review already up on the site, so I'll link that in the description below as well. So moving forward, we're gonna do movies last, just because movies is one of my bigger sections this time, as I feel like it always is, except for like July. So we're gonna look at games. What have I been playing? Now, playing is a little bit of a mixed bag. I did go back. I have in my mind to kind of wrap up a lot of things that has been going on recently that I've kind of started but never finished. So we're working on a bunch of that stuff right now. I actually bought Monument Valley 2, which is a mobile game by S2 Games. It's something of a puzzle. Physics-based puzzle sort of game. It kind of messes with like the geometries of kind of like how the place works and how you change things around. You create paths and stuff like that. And if you haven't seen it, it's a really beautiful game. Monument Valley was great. Monument Valley 2 adds a little bit of a twist and a different story of the main characters. It's super pretty. It's a kind of minimalist, and it works really well for the way they set it. It's really colorful and fun, and I'm working on the review for that one. Other than that, I went back to the Dark Side Detective, which I did a review for last year, and happens to be one of our highest rated games. It's a 5 out of 5 for last year that we gave for the game, and I went back to look at their free DLCs that they had released for different holidays. The first one I looked back at was the Halloween one called The Poltergeist. And then after that was the DLC for Christmas, which is called Buy Hard. And the one that hasn't been released on the channel yet is called Bates Motel. Bates as in Baits, not Bates. So you can see they do a lot of pop culture, a lot of play with words. It's very clever. It still has that sort of really cool, sort of idea that of like dialogue and just how they work everything together. So moving on, I did start We Happy Few in July, and I never moved very far. Like the videos didn't get released yet, so I'm still kind of working through it. The game is really long. So I'm working through most of it right now and trying to get it all together. However, I did go back to Remember Me, which is a game that we started before We Happy Few, and we just ended up getting game keys from publishers, and we didn't end up going back to it. So right now we are working on Remember Me. I'm on chapter 5, halfway through, and I'm about to wrap that one up as well. Finish it. It's only a few chapters away. And I'll be done. And I'm really, really enjoying it to a certain extent. There are issues that I'm not completely happy with, but for the most part, it works. And then I went back to one of the earliest games when we started the channel, when we started actually the podcast, on one of the first interviews we ever had with Allison Smith. And yeah, I actually went back to play in the Black Watchman universe, Anayro the Dream World. I can never pronounce it right. It's Ahnayro. I'm gonna once I finish that game, I am going to do a review for it. It's one that's awfully overdue, but it's one that I really, really enjoy. It feels a little bit more contained in the world of the Black Watchman, so I'm really excited to get back into that and finish it up eventually. So you can see a lot of things are in progress, a lot of unfinished things that I want to just get back and work on, which is a good thing to have. We have a lot of games that we were talking about is in our library that we haven't played yet, and we're going to be working through those in the next few months, just to get things off the list and kind of like you can go back on how we look at games now that they've been released a few years and stuff like that. So finally, for movies, this is getting a little long already, so we're gonna try and do movies a little bit faster. Um, I can't remember if last time I talked about The Meg, but I don't think so. So the first movie to kick off is that we actually ended up going to the theaters to see The Meg, Jason Statham and shark movies. Both me and my husband's favorites, so we just couldn't resist it, honestly. Yeah, so we went to go see The Meg. We had a lot of fun with it. We really dished out and we went to check out the Ultra AVX and 3D. So it was quite the movie experience that really delivered. I mean, I know that we're the minority that really enjoyed this movie, but I like mindless entertainment. I like entertainment that I can go in and just have a lot of fun and come back out. That's the definition of going to the theaters for me. Following that, I did end up, and then after that was a lot of Netflix movies that were going away, or rentals that were going to expire, and that sort of stuff. So I also ended up watching a lot of Chinese movies because Netflix has recently acquired quite a few. So one night when I was so usually I tend to watch a lot of Hong Kong movies with my mom when I have dinner with her. So we watched Chasing the Dragon, which is the Donnie Yen movie. Donnie Yen and Andy Lau, which is a fantastic cast by itself. It had a lot of hype when it was first talked about. It gets a little lost in translation because the fact is that Donnie Yen portrays kind of like a refugee from China that goes to Hong Kong to seek out a future, and he ends up being caught up in the Triad Society and being caught up in the wrong side of the society, pretty much, and ends up being in this time in Hong Kong when British was ruling and there was a lot of corruption and there was not a lot of control. So it kind of gets caught up in the mess where Andy Lau plays a corrupted cop who's really trying to move up in the world, but also secure his place in the society. And with the help of Donnie Yen and his established sort of world, he's trying to move through this. It's not the best movie in the world, but there is a lot of stuff to love about Chasing the Dragon. I think it's one that's really worth watching, especially if you do speak Cantonese. Donnie Yen does a kick-ass, dialect accent, like a dialect accent in Cantonese, which really, really works. Other than that, I mean, we also recently, Netflix got some really older films. It was like the 1980s films. I think the one was the 1989 film Doubles Cause Trouble, which is with Maggie Cheung and Maggie Cheung and Dodo Chang. They are exceptional actresses. If you haven't seen Maggie Cheung, she was in Lust Caution and a bunch of other movies that have had some international acclaim. She is very known. This is one of the earlier movies when she was first starting out her success, and these ladies were leading ladies. They were comedic, and they were funny, and just downright cool. And I also ended up watching 2 Stephen Chow movies. So you have a rewatch for myself, which is Lookout Officer, which is one of my favorites, where Stephen Chow plays a partner in he gets into the police force, and he ends up being caught up in a cop who was murdered wrongfully and is sent back to find the reason of his death. Yeah. So other than that, it was the second movie of Stephen Chow that I watched was The Mad Monk. The Mad Monk is one that I had never seen before. I did mix it up with another film. I thought it was another one. But The Mad Monk I did not see before. It's a little bit ridiculous. I know that Stephen Chow movies in general are a bit absurd. I like the absurd humor. This one's a little bit on the absurd in the dumb sense. I didn't. I thought it had its qualities, and he did have his fantastic sidekick with him, Manhattan, and but in the end, it didn't quite appeal to me the way I would have preferred. Uh, it's still entertaining, but just not really my favorite Stephen Chow film for sure. Jumping back to movies and tea, we did do In Your Eyes and Sucker Punch, which was our two our own choices of After Hours in our midsection between our season 1 and season 2. Sucker Punch recently did get released. As I'm recording this, it has just been released on Podomatic. So I'm going to link that in the description below so you can check out, our thoughts on it. For both of us, it was a rewatch, and we wanted to kind of go back and see how we felt about it, our retrospective on just the film and how it lives up after years of being released. And, in many ways, Sucker Punch, particularly Sucker Punch, is very controversial. A lot of people have their opinions and very mixed opinions about how they feel about the film and whether they like it or hate it. So going back into normal stuff, I already talked about The Meg, and after that, I spent a lot of time on Netflix. So I watched To All the Boys I've Loved Before, which is recently released. It's based on the book To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. One of my favorite books this year, for sure. Top notch. I love it. I love the book so much. I went and read the sequel, and I can't wait to read the sequel, the third book in the series. Unfortunately, I did miss the release of that one, so I didn't end up watching it, reading the book. But the movie is fantastic. I have to say, it's one of my favorite movies, and one of the reasons why movies are going a little slower is that I've been rewatching that one over and over and playing it in the background a lot. Definitely one of my favorite movies. Noah Centineo is he's been coined the internet's boyfriend, and I can totally see why. But no, he's really great at capturing being that vulnerable boyfriend. He's kind of not pretentious. He's not like the typical douchebag hot guy. He's really sweet, and he's really he has these great expressions that really makes you believe the roles that he's playing. So yeah, I'm really happy with how he performed that, and I was really happy with the cast they chose for To All the Boys I've Loved Before, and everything really comes together for that one. After that one, I finally got around to watching Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. I have never seen Man of Steel. I never actually made it through the film. I watched about 10 minutes 2 times, and I never made it through. I fell asleep. Sad, but true. Not sure how sad, but I mean, Batman vs. Superman was kind of a mess. I didn't really like a lot of it. I found it actually overly long and boring. That would be where the in a nutshell version would be for me. After that, I actually rented Call Me by Your Name, and I've heard a lot of really great things about this movie. I really didn't know much about it. Actually, it really delivers. Call Me by Your Name is really great in the sense that I think it took me a while to get into, and it makes sense because I kind of felt the same way I felt with the director's previous movie, A Bigger Splash, which I also watched a few months ago. Unplanned, but it happened to be that way that I realized it was the same director. The landscape itself is great. The setting is fantastic. The dialogue is really nice. Everything works so well together. Armie Hammer and Timothée Chalamet is fantastic. It's so beautiful, the movie. The more I think about it, the more I love it. It's just so much to, see how both of these guys are just discovering these feelings and being vulnerable to each other, and just the different maturity in how they're dealing with the feelings. After that, Pete's Dragon was going to expire. It's going to leave Netflix in September, so I went ahead and I watched Pete's Dragon. Pete's Dragon, this is the remake, or maybe the modernization, I guess, of of the Disney film in the 60s, 70s, something like that. I had recently watched earlier this year the original. So I went into this one a little skeptical because it's probably going to be less colorful than that one. And it kind of felt that way, that it fell short from the original. But visually, it's still done really well. And it brings in this positive ending, and it has this family vibe, and it still holds kind of like this sort of friendship. But I feel like the dragon, like Elliot the dragon, doesn't have as much of a presence as it did in the previous one. While visually it looks really nice, and there's some beautiful CGI effects done here. I still feel like the charm of it fell a little short from the original, but it wasn't a bad film. I think I still had a lot of fun. I still enjoyed watching it. So finally, for the last film I want to talk about is another Netflix original. I ended up watching The Babysitter. Recently, I've been having this weird thing where I've been watching a lot of movies with Bella Thorne, and it feels like she's becoming this Netflix original movie sort of thing, sort of actress. So, I mean, I watched You Get Me, and I thought she did a really great job in that one. But this one is with Samara Weaving, who is the main actress in it. And I watched Mayhem earlier this year, and it just blew my mind. So I was so excited for this one. This movie had Robbie Amell, and just, you know, there's these casts that I truly enjoyed watching in previous movies before. So to be honest, The Babysitter is quite good. It's actually delivers on a lot of like tension, and it has a nice dose of comedy. It is coined as a horror comedy. So there's some thrills, there's some scares, and there's a good bit of comedy that works. A lot of dark humor going on. I've heard it being compared to The Green Room. I've never watched The Green Room yet. So I haven't watched The Green Room yet. That's definitely on my list coming up for the Halloween marathon. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up this What's Up. Thanks so much for watching. If you made it to the end, this is a pretty long one, I know. It's one of the reasons why I'm going to be doing this on a weekly basis as much as I can, on a shorter frequency, just so that things don't pile up so much. But it also gives me time to, say, finish a book or something, so I don't end up having like nothing in that sort of category or whatnot. But we'll stay true to things, and things will be back on schedule very soon. I do have a few overdue things that are going up on this channel. So you can see all my other channels. I'm going to link everything at the bottom. A lot of stuff is going to be coming up. I have about 10 movies that I haven't written reviews for, and about 10 TV binges that is sitting in the waiting. So I'm trying to slow things down, so I'm doing a lot of rewatches on things. Hopefully that won't affect things too much. So thanks again, and I'll see you all in the next video. What's up, or on the blog. Thanks. Bye.